Everyone sees the wins, the medals, the highlight reels. But greatness starts before the scoreboard, right here in Aurora. In our schools, parks, and neighborhoods, athletes are grinding, growing, and chasing. Come along with me as I interview the legends and rising stars right here in Aurora. My name is Justin Evans, and this is Athletes in Aurora. Welcome back to Athletes of Aurora. Today, we're at West Aurora High School, and we're interviewing a hometown legend, Kenny Battle. Kenny began his collegiate career at Northern Illinois University before transferring to the University of Illinois, where he became the king of the 360s for his incredible aerial moves on the court. He went on to play in the NBA for several NBA teams such as the Phoenix Suns, Boston Celtics, and the Golden State Warriors. Recently, on October 10th, was Kenny Battle Day in the City of Aurora, where he gained a proclamation and an award. Today, we sit down with him to hear about his legacy and how much he means to Aurora. Obviously, you are a household name here in Aurora. You have a lot of accolades. You have a lot of wonderful accomplishments that have been towards your name. But let's start at the beginning. What was it like for you to grow up and play basketball here in Aurora?
It was awesome. You know, I had an opportunity to play basketball every single day, from May Street, Barbara Green Park, Farnsworth, Ohio Street Park, Westwood Park. You know, so many parks to play at back in the day, and they were always filled with a lot of people, a lot of athletes playing, older, younger, and guys younger than myself.
How did your time at West Aurora really shape you as a player and as a person?
Well, you know, when you have a legendary coach as Gordy Kirkman, Curtis Shaw, Rick Thompson, Rick Albright, you had a group of coaches that cared about the athletes, you know, and it was a West Aurora model. It didn't matter what sports you played, the coaches cared about their athlete while they were there, after they left, and once they became adults. It was the same thing, that you were always welcome to the West Aurora family.
We talked about your, the coaches here that helped you develop as a player, and how impactful that was to you. Let's talk about, the moments of you being at West. Was there any favorite moments from either a game or even just while being here at West Aurora High School that you can look back to, or is there any memories that stick with you today?
Yes, it was the first game I actually started was the East-West game. And it was first start for me on varsity, and it was a rivalry game on top of that. So, I mean, the gym was jam-packed. It's standing room only, and people yelling and screaming, and the West Aurora fans, the East Aurora fans, and then you had general fans that wanted to come see best basketball on both sides of the river. And it was a coming out party for Kenny Battle. It was my coming out party. I had the opportunity to come out, played very well. We won the game. My stats was very well. And it was the beginning for me of establishing who I wanted to become and who I am today. Started that Friday night.
Talk to me more about, obviously you began your college career at NIU, you transferred over to U of I. Talk to me about that process and what led to you, wanting to play professionally in college.
Well, during that season, I was highly recruited as a junior. Then by your senior year, you're breaking down, to your top 10 schools. Mm-hmm. And then from the top 10 to your top 5. And because you only get 5 visits. And, I wanted to say I have a very large family. Mm-hmm. And if I go to Georgetown, they might see me once a year, maybe twice. The same at Villanova, mm-hmm. Same in Vegas. So I chose Northern Illinois because it was 22 miles from my front door to campus. And my entire family were able to see me play. My West Aurora fans of Aurora, could just drive right straight down 88 to the game with ease. And the coach John McDougal also coached at West Aurora prior to taking the job at Northern. So he ran the same offense that Coach Kirkman ran. So I was very familiar with his offense and his defensive scheme as well. So it was just like, you know, going from something great to something greater, you know, because you knew what to expect when you walked in the door from Coach McDougal.
What led you to ultimately transfer to U of I?
Well, the administrators wanted to change conference, and Coach McDougal was against the change. So they ended up firing him because, you know, he spoke his voice, and, you know, we had a young team. We was very good, and we would have been, you know, the Butler and all those schools prior to them becoming that. That's what Northern Illinois was. We had a young squad. We had finished second in the conference as sophomores, and so we were guaranteed 2 NCAA berths the next 2 years because we was winning conference. And once they fired Coach McDougal, then there was no need for me to stay because I didn't want to play for a new coach. I came there to play for Coach McDougal. My teammate Randy Norman from West Aurora was also there. Rodney Davis from East Aurora, Jim Edmonds from Hinckley, and Darren White from DeKalb. You know, we had played against each other in high school. But, you know, they understood that I didn't want to play for the new coach. I was pissed off at the administration for firing coach for no reason. So, you know, I was hurt and a little slighted, so I knew the best thing for me to do was to leave DeKalb and go to Champaign. My mother always raised me to make my own decision. Even during the recruiting process, all the reporters would always ask her, "Where's Kenny going? Where's Kenny going?" And she would just tell him he's going wherever he feels is the right fit for him, you know. And when I called, well, I was actually at home, and I let her know. I said, "Well, I'll be going to Champaign," and I told her it's only 2 hours away, you know. And she was like, "All right, well, we'll see you there," you know. And the family made that trip to Champaign. The West Aurora fans, family and friends, I mean, they packed Assembly Hall every single game for the 2 years I played there.
And as we're talking about your transition now at the University of Illinois, what was your standout moment of? I know we talked about it earlier in the beginning about, you know, you having that game early in your, I believe you said your freshman year, sophomore year of, you know, you really being able to say Kenny Battle is here. Did you have that moment when you went to U of I? Was that moment already there when you first started off at Northern Illinois?
Well, you know, once I had to set out that first year there in '86, and, you know, I still was able to practice, but when that '87 season started, and I knew I would be playing, you know, that excitement and all that doubt that the media was writing that, you know, I'm not big enough for the Big Ten, I'm not physical enough, you know, I'm not strong enough. And I just, you know, I read it and laugh. And I remember the first interview after the first game, and I let the media know. I said, "Well, thank all of you who's coming here, and thank all of you that doubted me from the first day before I even played a game because you felt that the Big Ten was better than the MAC," which it was, but players are players. It doesn't matter where you're at. You know, and I told them I come to compete wherever I'm at all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm, you know, high school, junior high, it doesn't matter. I'm going to compete. And that's what I did, you know, my 2 years at Illinois in the Big Ten. And, you know, got, you know, Player of the Week numbers of time, all Big Ten, first, second team, all defensive. And, you know, people are like, wow, I guess you don't have to be big and strong to be a dominant player in the Big Ten.
What was like your inspiration when it came to your game, or, you know?
Oh, well, it's been my inspiration since I was born. That's my mom. You know, I can call her regardless of what's going on or what I'm going through, you know, and she always had soothing words for me. And, you know, I remember I had a streak of double-doubles in high school. And I played the game, and I think I had maybe 8 points. And, you know, the media, of course, media is media. You know, they're going to write what they want to write, say what they want to say. And I remember her and I was reading a newspaper, and it was a Friday night game. And she said, well, don't worry about it. It's over with. She said, you have another game. Start a new streak. And I started a new streak, and I can't remember the team, but I remember I had like 28 points, 16 rebounds, you know, almost, well, I had it was a triple-double and close to a quadruple-double.
Oh, wow, that's...
and the coach put it in the paper. He said, I wish Kenny hadn't talked to his mom there after I game.
Yeah, you talk to mom, you're going to get an excellent grade performance.
Oh, yes, always, always.
But take me to the day of the 1989 NBA draft. What was going through your mind? What was going through your head, your emotions that day?
You know, it was a day full of excitement. It was my mother's birthday.
Wow.
And I was drafted on her day, on the 27th of June. And I chose to stay home with family instead of flying out to New York for the draft party. I wanted to be with the people that I've been with my entire life. I wanted them to sit there and watch TV with me and then take the enjoyment and excitement in, along with a lot of family and friends from around Aurora. And it was a great day to hear my name, Kenny Battle from the University of Illinois, the 27th pick of the Detroit Pistons. And I was traded on draft day. I knew my agent had told me that I was drafted. He like, don't pack the coats to go to Detroit. You going to Arizona. You know, so it was a great day. It was a great feeling. It's something that I had dreamed about, that I had put in my goals, and it was something that I finally had achieved. You know, the ultimate goal of making it to the NBA.
I had actually watched the video that the City of Aurora did, where they, you know, honored you, and a certain somebody said that you had dunked on a very prominent player in Summer League.
But I'm gonna talk about the time when he dunked on Michael Jordan. He was in Summer League in Chicago, and when Battle went up on Jordan and dunked on him, it was so nasty. Everybody in the gym went crazy. They started running out of there. You heard people saying, man, he dunked on Mike with his own shoes on.
Is that...
Well, you know what? I dunked on a whole lot of NBA players in the Summer League. But, you know, I know you're referring to Michael.
Yep.
And, you know, it was, you know, it's anybody that knows me knows that's how I play. I don't care who's my opponent is.
Yeah.
I don't fear any of my opponents. I never was scared of any of my opponents. I'm gonna play hard regardless of who you are. And you know, it was one of those games. It was jam-packed at Chicago State, and you know they had that little gym, and it was over capacity, and the crowd, you know, everybody, you know, was loving Mike, and Chicago was just beginning to know who Kenny Battle was. You know, they read all the articles, they see, you know, I'm a scoring machine, a high flyer, exciting guy, but, you know, Mike was the man in Chicago. And, you know, that game, everybody was like, I mean, they just ran out on the floor. And, I mean, you had to be there. It was, and they was like, man, you know what you just did? I'm like, man, I'm just playing the game, man. I'm doing what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, and Mike and I, you know, became friends, you know, and even when I was in the NBA, we was still on there because I had to guard him still, you know, and, you know, it's just a great opportunity, a great chance to meet a lot of NBA guys playing in that Chicago Summer League program. You know, my coming out party was the first game I played my rookie year, and I had my first basket, which was a dunk. And all my teammates, Eddie Johnson, who was from the University of Illinois and Chicago, Tom Chambers, you know, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, Jeff Hornacek, all of them was like, hey, welcome to the NBA, Rook, you know. And they said not too many people get a dunk on their first point in the NBA. You know, so they said cherish it, remember it, but we still got 40 minutes to play.
Yeah, right. Get back on defense.
Yeah.
Stop loading. Take me back to the 1990 NBA dunk contest.
Oh yeah,
That was, I feel like, what did you know going into that season that you would be selected? Obviously, you had guys like Dominique. You had, I believe, Scottie Pippen as well.
Yeah.
You had some really, really true Hall of Famers. What was your mindset going into that? I mean, I know for me, I would be starstruck.
Well, you know what, going in, you know, a lot of those guys you had seen play while you was in college. And, the NBA is full of high flyers. You know, it's, when you're in college, you have, maybe one or two, three on a team. I was fortunate to play with 5 guys or 6 or 7 guys. Illinois that, we was called the Flying Illini because all we do was dunk on people all the time. But, that moment when we was at practice, actually, and Coach Cotton Fitzsimmons come in and say, hey, Rook, you've been selected to participate in the dunk contest. And it was almost towards the end of practice, so for the next 20 minutes, I had to put on a dunk show for my teammates, showing them, what kind of dunk I'm going to do in the dunk contest. And, so it was great. And then you know who's selected because you get the list and you see the guys that a lot of them were there last year, the year before.
Yep.
And, it was in Miami, so, I mean, it was unbelievable scene. You have all the superstars, models, rappers, actors, everybody you've seen on TV, you're sitting next to.
Right.
Or you in the VIP room with all these people.
Yeah.
And you be like, wow. And, it was great. I had opportunity. I took my younger brother, Bo, with me, and he was starstruck because everywhere we went, it was nothing but VIP, all the big wigs, and, it was great. And I got the chance, that was the first chance I had to meet my idol, who was Dr. J, because he was the judge of the dunk contest. And once I was eliminated, I went back to get dressed, and he left the stand where he was keeping the score and come back to the locker room and say, hey, young fella, hold your head up. He said, he said, welcome to the NBA. He said, but this is political. He said, they already know who they want to win regardless of what you've done. He said, your dunk was unbelievable. And to hear that from my idol and another high flyer, I'm like, okay, now I understand how, some guys win the dunk contest and some guys don't win.
Yeah.
So
obviously we talked about, you knew that your time was coming to an end. What was that a decision that was made more abruptly? Was it more of just, as you got into your first couple of seasons, you were like, I want to play as long as I can?
Well, everyone wants, don't look at a time frame. I had almost 5 years in the league. And I knew at some point basketball is not going to last forever. And, you're talking to veterans and everyone, they say you have to prepare for when you're not playing anymore. When, when the ball stops bouncing, what are you going to do? And I knew I wanted to coach. I wanted to give back to the younger kids here in the Aurora area, and I wanted to be impact within the neighborhoods that I grew up in back here, because I knew I had done something that no one from my city had done before. So I wanted to give all the guys, especially the guys at West Aurora, opportunity and a chance, because you have many questions when you come back for the summer. For guys you played with from high school, guys that played after you at West Aurora, and guys that are coming into West Aurora. Because one thing that I really love about Gordy Kirkman, he let everyone that's going to be a West Aurora Blackhawk basketball player understand the heritage and history, rich history of West Aurora basketball. And, guys before me, guys after me, he made sure that these guys understood, who I was, who, Ron Hicks was, who the Bryans was, all of the top players that came through West Aurora. He wanted everyone to know who they were. And all the guys from West Aurora continue, even today, to come back and support West Aurora basketball.
With your coaching resume, you coached at the Illinois Institute of Technology, Malcolm X College, obviously here as well, West Aurora, your alma mater. What has coaching at different levels taught you about leadership and development?
Well, you know, you have that leadership when you're playing. Because I was a captain for 2 years here at West Aurora. I was a captain for 2 years at Northern and 2 years at Illinois, and even at the pro level. So, you know, that is leadership, and you develop it. You see it from your coaches. I've had great coaches at every level that I participated sports in. And, you know, you take something from all of your coaches. You know, one guy might be a defensive wizard, one might be an offensive genius. You know, one, you know, show you, you know, different areas you need to be on the court. And, you know, you take that and when you're teaching it back to the young kids, and, you know, anybody that come through West Aurora basketball to tell you, if you can't play defense, you're not going to play for Gordy Kirkman. You know, he had one of the most disciplined defensive teams that the high school probably ever seen, because we were so disciplined defensively. And, you know, and people be like, man, how did them guys do it? Well, they see guys before them, they do it themselves, and they see the generation coming after them continue the trend that, you know, you can score all the points you want, but you're going to play defense at West Aurora.
No, I mean, that defense, you know, there's a saying, you know, obviously defense wins championship, you know, obviously wins games, and, you know, I can only imagine the impact you've had on the several players that have been able to learn and grow under you. So my last question, or one of my second to last questions for today is, you ran a program called KB Hoops, is that correct?
Yes.
For 15 years, helping young players go through camps across the state. What did that program mean to you, and what do you hope those players took away from it?
Well, you know, what it means to me is it was my own organization. And thing about it, I had an opportunity to choose the players that I want and not accept the players that I didn't want. And I had players from Plainfield. One young man was from Aurora, but he had moved to Chicago. And everyone was from Aurora, you know, Plainfield. And, you know, I didn't look for the superstars. I wanted to develop them as young men and model themselves for after basketball, teach them life lessons, skills. And all of those young men that I had on my first AAU program, all of them young men have graduated college, went on to college. I had one go to West Point, Miles Walters from Plainfield, you know, and my program was different. You had to maintain a B average, you know, and not a lot of AAU programs had that.
Nope.
And I told all my guys, I said, hey, C is average. None of you guys are average. I don't want you to be average. I want you to be above average. So I challenged them, and they challenged each other. And we was very successful. I don't care where we went to, national championships, many tournaments throughout the country. Everyone knew KB Hoops because we had a defense that pressed you from the opening whistle to the final buzzer. And there were many games that we couldn't play defense full court because we was up 30 points. And I told the guys, I said, and the coaches would bring their team to watch my team play because they said, you guys think you can play defense, watch Kenny guys. And all the coaches said, how do you get them to do this, you know, for 40 minutes? I said, that's how we practice. The coach always told me, you play how you practice. And I said, but when you get to the game, it's that much fun because it ain't against your teammates. You know, it's against somebody you don't know or somebody you want to beat in the ground.
Thank you so much, Kenny, for coming today. It was an honor to interview you and learn about the greatness and impact that you have led here in Aurora, and I can't wait to see what you do more.
Thank you, Justice, for having me. Thank you so much.
Do you know a standout athlete from Aurora who deserves the spotlight? Whether they're excelling on the field or in the classroom, we want to hear their story. Visit our City of Aurora website page under Aurora Community Television and submit your form today. And let's celebrate the athletes who inspire us all.